Thank you, colleagues, for a week-long's worth of work from ESCOM to Treasury and to now RAF. I want to thank you, Deputy Minister of Transport, for being here. We appreciate your presence. We don't take it lightly, particularly under the circumstances which currently prevail. To say we are horrified would be an understatement to the extent of the crisis which besets RAF, particularly in light of the observations that we have made today. Clearly this institution is in trouble, and I'm pretty certain that moving forward we're going to prioritize visits to RAF centers throughout the country, because the picture of improvement which we receive from the executives and the board does not mirror what we see here today, does not mirror the public complaints that we receive, and the work environment here, to use a phrase from one of the employees, is toxic. Culture of intimidation, and to us it comes as no surprise, because our interactions with the executives and the board of RAF have, for all intents and purposes, not been positive. The standoff with the board, the executives and the AG is the clearest indication to date for us as to why that standoff would arise, because what we have seen today is a horror story. I was joking with colleagues earlier on in saying, if you wanted to draft a statement about this oversight to RAF today, it would be a one-liner. And Honorable Van Minen suggested something along the lines, RAF is a car wreck, full stop. And I think it characterizes what we saw. And something has got to give. When we last met, we had asked that there must be a speedy intervention insofar as the board is concerned. We have received no feedback on the issue of the board. And my information is that even that semblance of a board is, in its illegal construct as it is now, does not correct. So you've got an institution in crisis and now leaderless. So the situation that we have seen today is a disaster. I think the problems, one, Mazambane, were you there in the 5th Parliament when we went to Compensation Fund and we saw a disaster of filing?
No. I was there when we went in this Parliament.
Yeah. Now, that's this one, the 5th Parliament. I can tell you that I thought that was a disaster and I came here today. There's a lot of issues, DM, document management. I'm trying to imagine a situation that, God forbid, a fire engulfs this place. It's a paper mill. Yes, there is a system in terms. It's still a risk. Maybe one can conclude, well, these are just observations for now, and the committee will still reflect as we compile our report. We've got employees who want to work. Their hearts and minds are in the right place. But RAF is not responding in kind. You've got staff members, one lady brought her own chair because the sheriff has taken staff here. She brought her own chair from work. She's using her own computer. And now, as a coping mechanism, RAF is deferred to outsourcing. You've outsourcing, you've hired computers so that when the sheriff comes and they can't take that. And I think the final point is quite clearly there is a huge disconnect between the board and the executives with the workers. Some of them said they don't even know who the board members are, who the board is. They've never seen them. You know, and quite clearly there's a trust deficit. The union stopped me outside union leadership and had a brief conversation, and I advised that they send their issues and their observations in writing to us, in avoiding and having a knee-jerk reaction discussion which may not be fully ventilated and interrogated. But the thrust of it is that they are worried and concerned about what is going on at RAF. So the situation is dire. The situation is dire. My observation is that, and colleagues will express themselves shortly, RAF is an ICU with one foot in the grave. And its saving grace is just maybe a staff complement that wants to try. Other than that, it's leaderless, it's directionless. Systems are literally being made as you go on improvisation to try and hold things together, and a desperate outcry to say, please help. Everybody we spoke to at the end of it, they say, please help, we hope your visit will yield results. It's a cry for help, which is an echo of the public cry out there of claimants.
This committee must be understood in its own context. We follow finances, wherever the critical challenges, mainly after we've had interaction with the top management and the accounting authority, which is the board in this instance, would have wanted to verify some of the areas which are both of challenge, areas that they are tending to, and the actual instance of benefit to the communities, affected individuals, to receive this service in good time, in order, in a high quality instance. And that's why we made a choice of getting into the service center, not getting into the head office where the executives are. So you can see on ourselves and experience and touch what is actually being experienced by the employees here, those who process these claims, and the first hand who receive the claim, and the actual foot soldiers in ensuring that the taxpayer smiles when a bit of a cent is somewhat spent on those affected by the accidents. So thanks a lot that you are with us here. The various areas we have went into, in one office where in detail we have been briefed by those who ought to be in touch with the affected individual on the point of receiving a service in hospitals, whether it's in ambulances, and how that gets into the mill of the claim. In there, you have competent staff. What we have heard, myself and Honorable Lias, I want to assure that the staff which is handling that bit of work is a very competent and agile individuals. There are areas which are of discomfort even to them. The desks that they used to have are no longer there. That has pushed them to allow people to work from home. And the risk of doing so, the files must follow the individuals who are working from home, and the risk is that some of the files might be stolen somewhere and pose a further risk into the processing of a serviced, suitable service to those who are affected. The second area is the area which has something to do with those who ought to be visiting those centers, hospitals, when incidences hit and affect those who are transported to various areas. And that service is no longer in existence. And the risk there is that the claims that might come from the lawyers, individuals, might at times reflect something which is more exaggerated than the actual situation which affects the claimants. And the impact is therefore huge in the fiscus. So it might be that it's within your own interest, your purview, to deal with some of those areas that you have found. And the third area which I've paid attention to was on those who are receiving and processing legal claims. Even there, you have young people who feel that they make contribution into the system. But the instruments they are using, whether talking about the computer system and the actual total load in as far as affecting that, is something which is neither here and not there. The piles of files that they receive, they ought to attend to with speed, but unfortunately, they can't do so because the tools of trade do not allow them to do as such. And such matters ought to be somewhat attended one way or the other. Someone said something which touched me. One lady who is working with legal processing claim, finalized claims, said, you see, here today it's on Friday. I'm going home. I'm returning on Monday. My desk is tagged by the sheriff. On the 27th of this month, the sheriff might come in and pick the desk I'm working from, the chair I'm sitting on, what the chairperson has said. And that gets deeper into the morale of the staff in terms of processing the claims which they are supposed to record. So the environment is a bit toxic in that exercise. But the closure of our visit was, I was a bit excited to see their filing area, where there's some form of a positive in as far as the filing system is concerned. Though we would want to see a better standard in terms of archiving. You see, because when you deal with documents, for their life to be prolonged, even the building which ought to be keeping such information ought to be of an upkeep which is different from any other building, because the information fizzles out because of heat, because of age, because of mood. And if you get there, you might find out that they lose some critical information on their files just because of such. But gentlemen who are working, they are very agile, very effective. They will take you into a point of saying where the file is being called. But the tension which ought to be here is immense, and the call upon those who manage this whole thing ought to be called in order. Personally, I'm very happy that we have came here, because our service as Parliament is to identify, verify, and feed back into the executive to say, please attend to these various areas, because this is a center which ought to be of a critical service to our own community. So my plea to you and your department is that if you could apply some sense of urgency to attend to these matters, a change could be somewhat imminent in as far as improving the standard of work in the area. So the feed into the negativity where we work should not be enjoyed. Because our task is the task of saying, executive, be on your toes, make those who are representing you and your offices to be responsive into these kinds of things. So your board, your management, executive management in the area must begin to act on things substantively. The High Court in the North Gauteng has since identified a number of judges who have to focus on RAF default issues, which is indicative of a huge challenge which RAF faces. So I would really appeal to the ministry to begin to get to those who are involved in these institutions to do what is right. We can't throw everything away because this institution ought to service those who are impacted highly in terms of their own body and limb. There is an urgent need to attend to the problems that were found here. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any further comments?
They're waiting years and years, and they're not getting them. Another aspect is that the Road Accident Fund at our meetings has repeatedly complained about the high legal costs. But indeed, the high legal costs are exacerbated by the complete lack of any attempt to deal with the claims that are coming in. And so you have literally thousands of default judgments. Default judgments go with high legal costs. And so the bankruptcy of the RAF, which it is bankrupt, no matter how the books are fiddled to decide when liability does or doesn't arise, they are bankrupt, and it just gets worse. And in the end, the taxpayer will have to come in and bail out the RAF. So beneficiaries are not getting what is due to them. It's costing the RAF and therefore the taxpayer massive amounts of money in legal fees resulting from poor administration in the RAF. There may be cases of legal practitioners overclaiming and so on, but if the administration here is doing its job properly, those will be identified largely and they will be eliminated. So, Mr. Chairman, it's a really depressing day in that sense. But it's been a long time coming because you, I'm sure, as I do, and Honourable Somia and my colleagues here, Honourable Van Minnen, get these regular, incredibly sad appeals from people who say, I don't know where to turn to now. It's been years and years, and I got one yesterday. I suppose people knew I was coming here. And I've just got another message, a long message, giving me the details of default judgments, which then leads me into the next thing. In April, we met with the RAF. At that meeting, the Chief Executive Officer and what exists of the board were instructed by Parliament, by this committee, to produce a comprehensive list of default judgments. And I think we gave them 2 weeks to do it. That's usually our modus operandi. It's now heading towards the end of June, and there's been no attempt to provide us with that information. And the reason clearly is because the default judgments is a massive, massive issue at the RAF, a huge issue, and it can't be covered up. And the unilateral decisions about dismissing panels of attorneys and so on has complications. The state attorney, is that the right word?
Yes, that's the right word.
It cannot cope with the existing workload that the state puts on the state attorney, let alone this massive legal workload that the RAF seems to think they can handle. And consequently, here we have lots of default judgments. So I like you, am very appreciative of the Deputy Minister being with us today. And I have a high regard for the Deputy Minister's ability to fix problems. But it does need more than just the Deputy Minister. And I hope we'll be able to give you the kind of support and that you may need to ensure that there is some sort of institutional change here. It's not a question of finding employees to discipline. That's not what it's about. It's a culture. It's much bigger, and certainly I'm committed, and my party's committed to trying to fix it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you want to say something?
No, I'm just saying push it down to play mic musical chairs.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Deputy Minister, for being here. At Scopa, we really started noticing enormous problems with the RAF, with their dispute with the AG regarding RAF standards, and the audits that weren't being completed because they weren't being done according to the standards that were required. And what we have seen is how the executive and the board have pursued court case after court case after court case and lost with costs every time. It's now an appeal, and this really, really raised alarm bells. Instead of dealing with the issues as we have on the ground, paying people who have been injured, horrifically injured and killed in car accidents, they were engaging in this kind of activity. This has got so bad that we are here today. We have really faced a lot of resistance to us being here. There were attempts to cancel the meeting. The CEO is unavailable. Then when we arrived, certainly colleagues had difficulty getting in. And all through our tour today through the building, we have been shadowed by security. There has been an unwillingness for management to allow people to engage. But we have persevered. I mean, Scopa has visited many, many places over the years. But I can really say that what we've seen today has truly been the most chaotic situation. There are literally desks constructed out of boxes of files with pieces of wood on top, where people are attempting to do their jobs, and they're working. What was expressed to me by one very concerned person was that in the midst of all this chaos, and I think you've heard extensively about it, they still have their assessments a couple of times a year, and because their outputs are low, they're receiving warnings, but they can't make work happen any faster than they are. But none of what is happening out there is being taken into account. So the work conditions for the people here are appalling. That obviously has an enormous knock-on effect. How people actually process a claim completely escapes me. You cannot find documents and files and work efficiently in the system that we're seeing. Already for many years, RAV has had a reputation for preferring litigation over actually dealing timeously with accident matters. There seems to be a prevailing viewpoint that all claims are partly fraudulent, so there is this default into litigation. Then, after firing the panel of attorneys in 2020, you're now seeing a situation where what people are doing is they're going out there and they're getting default judgments. Then they're getting writs, turning up and attaching what they can attach, because payments are simply not happening. So this system, as it is at the moment, is completely moribund. And the people who have to be held responsible are the board and the CEO. And unless there is a change there, I very much fear that the current system is going to continue, which is disadvantaging everybody in the system, including hundreds of thousands of South Africans who are not receiving the payments to which they're entitled. Thank you.
Lucas?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. In agreeing with my colleagues on most of the issues, I just want to focus on what we experience here, especially with the workers in this institution. And Deputy Minister, if we want results, we must first look at the working environment and try to look at the moral of the staff. Because it's painful to hear the outcry from officials here, will you rescue us? And I think South Africans are waiting for their claims, as Honorable Van Menen was saying, but they don't know the real environment or what is going on, and that the officials really try to do what they must do. So, Chair, to have happy workers, we must, and effective outcomes, and to bring results, we must really change the environment. And we really want to, or from our side, we want to acknowledge the fact that except for what is happening, the workers are keep on keeping on. So I will ask you, Deputy Minister, please try to address this with the board. Thank you.
We'll just move down in a line, conclude, and then we'll come to you, DM.
No, thank you, and good morning once more. You know, in addition to what colleagues have said, sometimes when you want solutions to have an effective institution like RAF running, truly make time to go and sit with the staff, especially where we went. They've got ideas in relation to how you can solve the backlog that we have seen. We're also just requesting that I want to re-emphasize that we don't take kind to how, from the board, even to the office of the CEO, we have been treated as a committee, and that we've got a responsibility to ensure that we conduct oversight. For example, even if the board chair was not here, they could have delegated somebody else, if you get what I'm saying. And that is going to make things very difficult for us moving forward. Please ensure that the requests that we had given them when we met them in April are met. We were still requesting for that data sheet so that we can be able to move forward and work. But let's focus also on motivating the employees. They are so demoralized. And let's close the gap between yourselves and them so that there can be efficiency and we can be able to assist the institution to continue to give our people claims. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. Good afternoon, DM. I hope it's afternoon already.
Just one.
It's morning, okay. Okay, good morning, DM. Chair, I think this visit, this oversight visit, now there is a solid case to dismiss the board. And I'm wondering as to when last did the executive visit this place. The building itself is an occupational health hazard to the workers. The staff the morale of the staff is very low. There is a high vacancy rate. Everything is just in shambles. We have got DM that it has been brought to our attention that claimants are not paid on time. Some contractors are not paid on time. Hence, the furniture is being attached. So the big question is, whom is RAF able, which financial obligations is RAF able to honor? Because almost everyone is not paid or is not paid at all, or is not paid on time. The offices, they look exactly like illegal dumping site of files and papers. It's not good at all for the health of these workers. And you look at the whole environment of the offices, the paper trail of the claims is like an environment that has been deliberately formed for any element to be able to defraud RAF. Those that they are saying they are inflating claims and so forth, they are taking advantage of the system. You look at the filing system, is not on. You look at the paper trail system, is not on. So to us, when we come as members of parliament and the management trying to deny us access to this building,
Then you see this, the chaos that we have seen. To me, it says this environment is deliberately constructed so that anyone can be able to come in and defraud a RAF. We are not happy the way we were treated. Then you ask yourself, if members of parliament serving in Scopa are treated the way we are treated today by the management, then how about the employees? How about the staff? It means they are going through a lot. And unfortunately, no one wants to hear what they are going through on a daily basis. No one cares about them. So that is what we are requesting, that please, human resource is very important in any working environment. These people are working under a very stressful environment, and it is only the executive and the board, if they are willing, if the board is willing to change. Because my take is that the board must be dismissed. They are paid to do nothing. There is nothing they are doing for RAF. RAF is in shambles. What is their responsibility? Thanks, Chair.
I think maybe just in conclusion from our side, it's ready to say what this management has done to this committee. It has shown the people of South Africa utter disdain, because we are not here with our jackets here. We are here as representatives of the people of South Africa. Now, if the people of South Africa are here and you have this kind of anarchy approach by this management, it's not a disrespect to us, it's a disrespect to the people of South Africa. And the question is, which executive authority allows this kind of disrespect? So for us, we're also calling on the executive authority, the minister concerned, to make sure that things are in place here. The issue of the board here, which is the accounting authority, we agree here with the honorable member here that indeed their time is up. This place has got no direction. The mess we have seen today cannot be a mess of yesterday. What has been the executive authority been doing all this time? In this whole time, it's not a mess of yesterday. There's boxes everywhere. There's filing under the tables, there's filing on top of the tables, there's filing on the passages, there's filing in the basement, there's not even place for cars to park. In my whole life, I've never seen such a mess. So indeed, to be having something called a board overseeing this kind of a mess is a real disaster that we've seen. And so indeed, I think the honourable members have said everything that needs to be said. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, there's issues that some colleagues have raised which are supposed to be deadlines. Some documents momentarily. I must tell you, media houses to buy projecting mics. Gentlemen, this thing of mic shuffling going on here. Transformation. DM, you see, here's the dilemma. We met in April. There has been no movement from what we discussed in April to date. I hear the calls that the board must be removed. The board has expired. It's in office illegally. It should not be there. So why you keeping them does not make sense to us. We are past the point of calling for their dismissal. In April, we gave you 30 days to come back with reasons as to why that board should continue holding the fort. It was not done. So what follows then, DM, you leave us no option but to believe that we must hold the ministry in contempt. You have to, it's no longer a negotiable or a discussion. You must appoint a board consistent with the legislation. It's not optional. I don't want to overplay the nonsense of this morning, right? People pretending that they can build some sort of Stalingrad here and that this place or any other place is inaccessible. But if anything, it should tell you the extent to which this cabal in office is prepared to go. This is what I call them, a cabal. Some syndicate of sorts. So, DM, I implore you, because we met with you the last time, and the next time when the minister was there, it was on PRASA matters, and now on RAF, it's you again. Please inform the minister, and I will also inform her in writing. This is now a compliance matter. And I'll be surprised if the AG doesn't make a finding about it. But then again, you disclaimed, so that may just what comes out of it. So the AG won't even touch your books. You know, DM, I would not touch your books. How do I even begin document management audit, right? So what I want to reiterate, DM, was, luckily for you, this is not a political matter, right, per se. You can hear the consonants, so across the political spectrum. It's a public finance management issue. And you want to be found wanting. So what I'm saying is, whilst there's problems at RAF, you are empowered by law. Exercise that empowerment. This building is a risk on many fronts. In fact, not many, on every front. Third point, I think it must be communicated, DM. Trying to prevent Parliament from performing its job is a violation of the Constitution. And the attempts of this morning are precisely that. But for me, they were a confirmation of why RAF is what it is. And then you've got this security who were given instructions to sort of try and intimidate and so on. Intimidate Laba. The whole thing is laughable, right, on one hand, but also serious about the extent to which management is prepared to go to suffocate workers. Because in one platform, they were there to tell the workers not to talk to us. So I'm really trying, what I'm trying to get at, DM, that as we are seated here, you are disclaimed. You are in the worst zone of audit outcomes. Right? Appoint a board. This reign of terror that is at RAF must be investigated by yourselves as a matter of urgent priority. In fact, I would even go far as saying there may be a need here for a full-scale forensic investigation of what's going on at RAF. Along the lines that the financial management is inconsistent with the law on one part, but also the HR matters are probably the worst. People are suspended willy-nilly without due process. So, the greatest risk to RAF as RAF itself along the lines of non-compliance with the law insofar as the appointment of a board is concerned, one. Two, if you allow this situation to persist, I hate to make the indictment, we'll have no other choice but to conclude that you are complicit. So I think we are past the point of negotiations and requests. So we would like, DM, a detailed response to the issues we raised in April and the issues we are raising now in 30 days from the executive authority. We have got no interest in talking to the board because it's illegal. Any further engagement with them on our part, we are complicit in aiding and abetting an illegal structure being in office. We are distancing ourselves from them. And there are attempts this morning, as a board and the executive combined, confirm our position, appoint a board. And I think what we said to ESCOM colleagues, get out of the boardroom, get out of head office, go to operations where things are taking place. If we can make these observations in the few hours that we have been here, I want to believe that you can make greater strides as the people who are in that space daily. So, I really want to appreciate again your presence. I don't take it lightly. My colleagues don't. And I think you, being new on your part from the executive perspective gives you a set of fresh eyes. And I'm sure that that freshness must be a motivator to plugging into the space with a view to change things. But what's going on in RAF can't continue. It's a national disaster what's going on here. DM, over to you.
No, Chairperson of Scopa, colleagues, thank you very much for the feedback, firstly. And secondly, I appreciate your acknowledging my being with you, although I don't think it was necessary because, in my view, I'm obligated to respond to parliamentary oversight. I don't see it as a choice. I don't see it as anything. Hence, I've been here. I committed to wait for you to do the walkabout and come back, and I'm grateful for the honest, brutal feedback as it is. As you rightfully say, it comes across political lines, which shows its honesty. They always say hindsight is the best science. I was scheduled to have been here myself yesterday, but due to the reasons that would have been advanced to yourself as to why you shouldn't come, those were the reasons advanced to me. So I acceded to the request not to come. I was intended to have been here yesterday, but this gives me the resolve that I should come here even quicker than I thought I would. But it gives me a basis at least to have where to start and so forth. So I truly appreciate it. And I do apologize, Chair and the committee, for the response that didn't come. I will immediately prioritize it. I do appreciate the time that is given, but I will endeavor and I commit that it should and it will be shorter than the time you are giving, given that we have already defaulted on an original thing. I profusely apologize for that. As I said, the role of Scopa and the role of oversight for me is sacrosanct. And it should not be questioned whatsoever. And what happened that you are mentioning here, I will personally look into it and make sure that it is corrected. In fact, I think we will make sure that there is an apology that is extended to yourselves by the executive of this institution, because it shouldn't happen. So from my side, on behalf of the minister and myself, we are committed to turn this thing around. The issues that were raised in April, I think it was around the 19th or so, if I'm correct, are very clear, and the issues we have headed here. And without re-agitating them or trying to repeat what were there, because I think it's straightforward, you have my 100% commitment of the ministry to get into this thing, and we will. And once more, as you said, that it will mean more engagement with RAF, visiting RAF, wherever the executive ourselves is needed to be there. You can be assured that we will be with you. We'll make sure that when necessary, we come to where we are expected to come and make sure that we give the answers, because this is part of oversight to ourselves, not only as RAF, but also to us as the executive. So thank you for the feedback. The deadlines will be met. I personally commit to that, and we will do that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a good week. We are tentatively scheduled for the 4th and 5th. We are waiting approval from the presiding officers on our one-day oversight with PRASA, DOT, Human Settlements, HDA, City of Cape Town, Western Cape Provincial Government, to deal with the relocation of persons who are living on the railway lines. So that is tentatively for the 5th. The oversight will be day 1, the meeting will be day 2. So it's a 2-day engagement in Cape Town, because the PRASA matters continue to be a problem. We advise some monies have been transferred from one department to another, and so there's a lot of movement of funds, but not the people. So money is moving, but not the people. So we are in recess, colleagues, but the special application has gone in, given the urgency of that matter. So again, I'm sure Monday, Tuesday, you will receive an invite confirming that, but tentatively the dates of 4 and 5. 4 and 5 or 5 and 6? 4 and 5. Right, too many dates in mind. 4 and 5 colleagues in Cape Town. On that note, I've said thank you for a good week, and I wish you all safe travels as we go back to our respective places. And if July is not approved, then we'll meet at the end of recess. In any other case of an emergency situation, we will have Zoom meetings to make sure that we bring each other up to speed. So whilst we're in recess, please be on standby for work. Take care and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.